Alright. What's up, guys?
What's up? Rick's here coming at you from our basement. Here on a late Saturday night here on. Hope you're all having a good week.
At least we're not crying on a Saturday night.
I ain't crying on a Saturday night. It's okay, it's been a little while. We want to continue our study on underground genres. And I think last time we were actually talking about it, we left off on, we were talking about the hard punk genre, which is one of my favorite types of music. And I more want to focus on, we talked about the Misfits, the two different divisions of Glenn Danzig and the Grays. We also covered rockabilly and psychobilly, because they're such an important basis for hard punk. But what I want to do is focus on hard punk as it is here in West Virginia. Why it's such a big thing here, because in my state, hard punk seems to be pretty big. There's a lot of hard punk bands sprouting up every minute. So I want to focus on the top bands, the ones that really left their mark, that really made the hard punk genre really big and flourished to grow. That really made its mark really worldwide, these bands have. And of course, as you can hear in the background, my favorite Blitzkid song playing, Body Snatchers. And the Mighty Blitzkid will be one of our topics of our subject on hard punk in West Virginia. So, we talk about hard punk, of course, the ghost stories, the horror, the whole creepiness. West Virginia and the whole Appalachia is known for its ghosts and its specters and monsters. Of course, everyone knows about Mothman in Point Pleasant, and of course, the Flatwoods Monster, which is only about 30 miles down the road south.
Actually, here in town, we have the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Yep. That's haunted. It's supposed to be haunted.
Yeah, and so, there's always a bunch of ghost stories, creepy things, and if you have walked the hollows and the hills of West Virginia as much as I have, I live in the woods, there's always this sense of creepiness, a sense of an uneasiness that something's there. Maybe just a natural superstition that's been ingrained in West Virginians, because we're always about 20, 30 years behind everyone else in the world, they say. West Virginia's kind of like its own little nook and cranny in the world. And ghosts and horror movies.
Apparitions, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. But before we get started on hard punk, talk about Blitzkid. Talk about the two you want to get more into the Ghost of West Virginia. Coffin Hollow and Other Ghost Tales by Ruth Ann Music. That's a classic book. Most of these stories are more or less tales, just not proven. Really good book. A lot of them were passed down from grandma to grandkids, and it's been told many times. One of the creepiest stories just happened up the road here, about 8 miles, a little town called Jane Lou. They talked about, there's a story about a headstone and a girl being found strangled to death in that graveyard. It's still up in the air if that actually happened or not. So again, and then another one is Monsters of West Virginia by Rosemary Ellen Dooley, Mysterious Creatures in the Mountain State. Definitely want to get that one. There's actually stories that talks about monsters you never heard about. So you really want to check it. Also about burial mounds, creepy things in some of the burial mounds. I didn't know we even had West Virginia. So anyway, Blitzkid. The Mighty Blitzkid. When you get into this genre, you definitely can't help but not talk about Blitzkid. I mean, if you come to really think about it, Blitzkid's probably had even more of an impact than the Misfits when it comes to hard punk. They may have been the founders. The Misfits, of course, were the founders that kind of made it, along with the Damned and some of the earlier the earlier bands. But Blitzkid, came along in the late 90s, going into early 2000s, and they took it to a new level. They made it worldwide. I think they really put it on the map and has influenced a lot of today's bands. I mean, you can really hear that Graves era, the melodies and harmonies of the Graves era Misfits in Blitzkid, but they took it much more a higher level. What's your favorite Blitzkid song, Dave?
Man, I tell you, Blitzkid's all over the place for me. So, real fast, I'm going to go into this, how I discovered Blitzkid. One day I was really into the Michael Graves Misfits, and I was just listening songs on YouTube, and one of the recommendations was Blitzkid. I don't remember the song that came up, but I listened to it. I was like, hey, that's a pretty cool song. I started listening to another song, and before you know it, I was starting to listen to the whole discography they had. So I gotta say, like, She Dominates is a good song. I can't really think of something. My mind's going blank. But I like Traces of a Stranger. That was a good record they had.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I think definitely Body Snatchers, which was the first song that was playing when we first began. I love that song, man. I think that's actually one of the first Blitzkid songs I ever heard play on bass.
Oh, As the Rope Bridge Sways, that's another.
Oh, yeah, Rope Bridge is an awesome, man. One of the very best. I think Torn Prince.
Yeah, Torn Prince.
Torn Prince is definitely Saturday night. They're Saturday night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way Goldbee's voice brings it down to a haunting, tortured spirit. He actually based that song off the Torn Prince character in what was the 12 Ghosts?
13 Ghosts.
13 Ghosts.
Yeah.
And he actually based that song off of that character. That when I hear the song, you think about a guy that's in the grave, rotting and dying, but yet he can feel the girl he loved up above, mourning and crying for his, mourning his loss. He can feel her mourning. And I think that's very, I love them kind of songs where you're placing yourself into that character. And that's what creates a good, that's why it doesn't matter what genre it is, when you actually, what's it called, empathy. When you're putting yourself in place of that, and you're making yourself that character.
From their side.
Yeah, you immerse and become that person, and that's what creates a good song. And I think that's why the Torn Prince is such a very powerful song. Goldbee just sings it with absolute, like pain and suffering, what this character
There's feeling behind it.
It's really good. It's a great song. So I think that's probably one of their top tunes.
Another song was Jane Doe Number 9. There's an interesting story behind it. It was a girl he used to date, and that one day he found out that she was raped and beaten and murdered, and in the papers it was listed as Jane Doe Number 9. That's something, man.
Yeah, she didn't have a name, but it was his old girlfriend. He actually, I think, dated her. Anybody knows Blitzkid? They're from Bluefield, West Virginia, but it's kind of Virginia, West Virginia.
Yeah, it's like
I'm not too familiar with the area, but the city is kind of like right on the West Virginia line.
Yeah.
So sometimes they say we're from Bluefield, West Virginia, and sometimes if you hear their live performances, they say we're from Bluefield, Virginia. So I guess it depends on what part of the state line as it draws down through where it's at. Again, I've never been there. I just done a little bit of background research on that town. So, but anyway, they're actually from the West Virginia line, and these two guys come together. I guess actually TB got the band going. Goldbee, which is named Steve Matthews, he joined the band. He actually learned to play the bass. In some of his interviews, he actually learned to play the bass so he can join Blitzkid.
Yeah.
And, Steve Matthews actually has a very rich, diverse history. He's a school teacher, tattoo artist. If you see a lot of the artwork that you see in a lot of the Blitzkid promotional art, like all their flyers and posters, and I think even some of their album covers. This is a great song, by the way. I love this one. But anyway, he drew that. And of course, he has his own tattoo shop. Does his own tattoo artwork. He's done school teaching. And is a very highly intelligent person. So, but anyway, it was pretty much these two men is what the basis of the band is. But they've had many drummers. Probably their most well-known was probably the one I've seen play consistently with them was Tesco.
Yeah.
Now, before we quickly go on to that, they left, Blitzkid played mostly underground. They played a lot in their hometown. If there was ever a band that went and showed what touring and self-promoting and really paying their fucking dues, it was them. I mean, they did a lot of underground, played a lot of underground small venues all over America until finally they made Europe, which is really where they took off at. They took off when they hit Europe. And really that's the key for any band. Once you hit Germany, Germany is the sweet spot in the music world. You make a fucking name in Germany, you're big.
Yeah.
You're a fucking god when you're in Germany. And really, when they started hitting Germany and throughout Europe, that's where Blitzkid started to get really world known. And today, it's really, be amazing if you go anywhere in the world and someone not know the name Blitzkid. And it started here, right here in West Virginia, man, in these backwoods hollows. And I think that's really cool. I really think it's great that these two guys, now today, the band's gone, they're not together, they haven't been together for a few years. They are attempting a tour. A reunion and start going again, but COVID come along, knocked that out. But they are planning again for 2021.
Yeah.
So, but I think altogether they had like 5 studio albums, and they had a lot of like splits and singles, and they contributed to this. They played with the who's who of anybody in horror punk. They played with what was the drummer for the Misfits?
Dr. Chud, yeah.
Yeah, they played many shows with Dr. Chud. Matter of fact, Chud, I think Chud didn't even play drums a little bit with Gorgeous Frankenstein.
Yeah, he was even in Gorgeous Frankenstein. Steve Matthews, a.k.a. Argyle Goldbee, also played bass in that band. And they had a singer for Gorgeous Frankenstein, and I guess he didn't work out. He did a few shows, and he just didn't work out. So they said, hey, Argyle, why don't you sing and play bass for Gorgeous Frankenstein? And it turned out he was the better singer for the band, in my opinion. You know, and he also brought more electric to the live performance as well.
Yeah, that original singer, Gorgeous Frankenstein. You ever watch that video? That dude sucked. That dude sucked, man. I mean, and if I remember right, even Glenn Danzig, didn't he even direct that video?
Yeah, Glenn Danzig did direct that. One of the videos. I think they did maybe like 2 videos.
Yeah, I mean, that band was, the early stages of that band was cheesy. But to remember right, when they were first starting to film that video, they were putting Gorgeous Frankenstein together. Goldbee was going down to film it. He asked, but they needed a drummer too. So that's, of course, Blitzkid was just wrapping up a tour. Yeah. And then they said, you have a drummer? He said, how about Tesco? So they brought Tesco along, and he's actually in the Gorgeous Frankenstein first video they ever did, directed by Glenn Danzig. And Tesco plays the drums in that. And of course, Goldbee's playing the bass, and they got that shitty singer. And then, of course, he left, like Rick was talking about, and Goldbee came front and center as bass player and singer. And there's actually a DVD out there about Gorgeous Frankenstein, where Goldbee became the singer. And they do a lot of Misfit covers. Yeah. A lot of Graves era Misfits. Matter of fact, Goldbee has played many shows with Michael Graves and everything. So
yeah, actually, there was a Gorgeous Frankenstein show where it was kind of like a Graves era Misfits reunion. You had Doyle playing the guitar, obviously. Dr. Chud was playing the drums. Michael Graves came back as singer, so basically all you was missing was Jerry Only. But you had Argyle Goldbee playing bass, so hey, there you go.
Yeah. And of course, strangest thing was, Gorgeous Frankenstein involved in the what? Doyle. And they got, what's his name, Alex Story?
Alex Story, yeah.
Yeah, from Cancer Slug. That's the band, Cancer Slug. I was trying to remember that band earlier. They got Alex Story from Cancer Slug. And there was actually an interview I read a few years ago where where he was asked about what happened with Gorgeous Frankenstein, and he actually wrote quite a few songs for Gorgeous Frankenstein. And I would like to have thought if the band didn't continue as Goldbee as singer, what would have been they evolved into. But he actually wrote a lot of songs, and he brought them to Doyle, and Doyle was like, "Nah, man, you know they're nice, but it's really not for me. I'm kind of having another idea for a singer." And that's when they brought Alex Story in.
We're going to move forward and get a little heavier.
Yeah, he wanted more of a metal, more of a harder, grindier metal sound. Yeah. And Goldbee's like, okay, that's cool. And in return, at that time, that was like in 2011, 12, that's when they were the last Blitzkid album was Apparitions, is the name of the last album.
I can't remember that. But they also had our buddy from Children of October, Rico Mortis. He was the last drummer for Blitzkid. In my opinion,
one of the last anyway. I think.
Yeah, I thought he was the last one. And but for me, my opinion, Rico Mortis was the best drummer for Blitzkid. And yeah,
dude, he's the best drummer. Period.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
By the way, if you didn't catch my my 3-parter on the discography of Children of October, you can go back and look at our YouTube channel. You need to subscribe to the Rex YouTube channel, and you can see where I walk through the discography of Children of October. Dude, they're one of my top 5 favorite bands. No band stands shoulder to shoulder with the mighty Children.
Actually, speaking of Children of October, they did a cover of the Mothman song. What was that song called?
Oh, actually, it's on there.
I'm sorry.
Genus Unknown.
Genus Unknown.
They actually did a cover of Genus Unknown, and they. I don't want to steal anything from Blitzkid, but fuck, I felt it was superior.
Yeah, they did it better.
But anyway, we'll go back and talk a little bit more about Children of October since we are talking about hard punk. Yeah, definitely the Rick Mortis connections there. He was a drummer with them. And of course, he eventually moved on. Went with Timmy and him, became Children of October. Yeah. Superior drummer.
And Rico, if you're watching this, dude, sometime you're going to have to tell us stories. Tell us stories of the old days when you was in Blitzkid. You know?
Yeah, and the one thing I do like about Goldbee, you know, I mean, really, he's the guy that kept the music alive. I do know the band had their time. They did many tours, many shows, released their albums, but it just seemed like I guess TB Monstrosity got to the point where he was like, I'm done doing the hard punk thing. I want to move on and do more deeper, meaningful music. Not the hard punk. I guess he can only dress up like a zombie for so damn long, you know, a chubby zombie, and he had to move on, do something else. And so, I can understand that, man, and I dig that. So, but Goolsby kept it going, man. He didn't say, okay, I got to get out of this and I want to do something. I don't want to do the harp. He went back and did more of the early 20s and 30s, like the early the silent horror type shit.
Silent era, yeah.
The silent film horror era. It paid homage to that. And then you can, of course, look at all of his solo projects he did. And, but, you know, it's always going to go back to Blitzkid, to the fans. Yeah. What the music that they've done together. And I think they see that and they want to bring that back together again. And so my hat's off to the guys for what they've done for hard punk. Now, also, they also did, what's the name of that damn album I'm trying to think about? The Anatomy of Reanimation. Now, that's a very controversial record. It's probably one of the easiest ones to find because trying to find the discography, a CD or vinyl, original of Blitzkid.
It's hard to find.
Dude, you can go on eBay and you can pay $80 to $100 easy just for a CD.
We actually went on Discogs, and we had to get a lot of our stuff from Discogs, and I think most of that came from Germany or England, so. Yeah,
I think 5 Sodas Below has been reprinted. We got the vinyl and the CD of that. But like Trace of the Stranger, good luck trying to find one of them. But we did find a download site, and we got most of the downloads. And, you know, that music is so hard to get today and to know what it has brought to us in the form of hard punk, how it's influenced so many bands today who are now covering their music. And so I got to really give it to those guys and what they've done. Whether you love them or hate them, you may not even like Blitzkid, you might think they suck, but you got to give it to these guys and what they've done for music. We actually met Argyle Goolsby back in 2016 at the Mothman Festival. And I remember when we pulled up, came out, they were playing this tiny little outdoor club. It was like a grill and bar. Bar and grill place, and it had like an outside deck, and it was all had like a screen all around it, and they had woods everywhere, and you just didn't think it would be a place like you could see Goolsby play. Yeah. And he walked out, just as we were coming out, we walked over, and he talked to us, and we hung out, he signed a shirt for me. Yeah. And we hung out about 15 minutes just talking with the guy.
He was super nice.
Super nice, got pictures, and then of course we went to the show. The Big Bad played. We're getting ready to go into Big Bad here in a minute, and we went in all the bands. Mumula played, the Big Bad, and of course Goolsby and everybody. And at that time it was Argyle Goolsby and the Hollow Bodies, which is an acoustic band. And he did a lot of acoustic takes of the Blitzkid songs, and it was gut-wrenching music, man. I mean, you had to be there late night. Just a very small crowd. One of the worst parts, some assholes in the background were watching football. Watching fucking football, just maybe no more than 5-10 yards behind us in the back of the room. Fucking TV's blaring football out, and everybody over football, and you're trying to, and the band's playing, and they weren't distracted. You know, Goolsby was such a professional. He focused on the music and his crowd, and he really interacted and set the mood well. So, as a performer, you'll be hard pressed to find a more committed performer than Argyle Goolsby. I mean, if you're going to go to a show of his, whether it's a Blitzkid or his solo band, or if it's the whole Hollow Bodies, dude, you got a treat. Not to mention, you can go when we were down at the Flatwoods Monsters Museum, just like I said, about 30 miles down the road, they actually sell the hollow body CD and Goolsby's CDs there. I never thought you'd ever go in and find Goolsby's music at Flatwoods Monster Museum.
Yeah.
So
actually, in the Mothman Museum at Point Pleasant, they also have some Blitzkid thing or two in the museum.
yeah, I think they had some buttons in the shirt or something. They had a couple.
Yeah.